Isn't it absolutely beautiful out? Hey everyone, this is Melissa with The Creative Season, and this week we are painting beautiful fall trees. I had initially just been playing around and I was going to create some bookmarks, so I was creating the trees next to each other, but then as I continued painting, I just thought this is a really fun painting to create and keep all as just kind of an array of trees. Now, this is a little bit longer than I normally create because we do have to stop it because we start adding on layers of splatters and doing some ink. And so this is a multi-part one where I think it comes in about 23 minutes. So grab a piece of paper, and this is a fun to do in a couple of different sessions. Grab a couple of colors, browns, yellows, oranges. You can pick whatever colors you want, a couple of paintbrushes, and some masking tape, and we are going to create a really gorgeous group of trees today. I hope you enjoy this as much as I did. It is such a gorgeous, gorgeous season out, and fall is really a beautiful season to appreciate the good that we've had and to let things go, right? As the trees teach us to do. So I hope you really enjoy this painting. Hi everyone, well, we are back. It is November, it's cold, it's beautifully full of fall in every way, shape, and form, and we are going to be painting beautiful fall foliage. I think this is oftentimes, I think the beautiful trees changing color is the flowers of the fall for me, and so as we painted some chrysanthemums last week, we're going to move into some fall foliage this week. This was originally going to be, and I still may do it, I was going to cut them into like bookmarks, kind of fat bookmarks to put in some snail mail, and then ended up it just looks so pretty all together. I'll probably still make some more and cut them up, but I just created a bunch of trees, which is what we're going to do today. We're going to use just a couple of colors, and we're going to use some splatter art, which really gives it a depth, and really it turns just what could be a basic painting, I think, into something that's a lot of fun. And so what I have here too is if you could certainly do just one tree or two trees, but I do have a long piece of paper. It's 12 inches in length, and it is about, I don't have my measuring stick with me, but it is, good, I think about 5, I think we're 1, 2, 3, 4, we're about 5 inches in height if you wanted to make something exact. And if you wanted to just do a couple of sketches, I went ahead and I have already sketched out, all I have done is sketched out some tree trunks, and this can be really fun. I'm going to move the camera back just a little bit. This can be really fun if you've been observing the different tree trunks in your neighborhood, on your drives. Tree trunks are so, they are so different. Each one has their own personality, it seems like. So I have just, again, a couple of tree trunks. I've sketched them very lightly in pencil. Now I'm going to come back out a bit. I'm going to go ahead and grab my brown first and foremost. I'm just going to get a smaller brush. So if you have like a size 4 or even a size 2, I'm going to go ahead and just pick up some of my cadmium. I'm sorry, not my cadmium. This is my burnt sienna, and one of my favorite browns. And you can see here, I'm just kind of sketching out the trunks of the trees. Get a little bit more water, bring in a little bit more depth here. I am leaving a little bit of white just for the sake of letting the color pop. We'll probably put in some more layering later, and adding a bit of depth later as well. But I'm not too worried about making these super exact. I do want to get these down first though, so they can start to dry, because as we start to put quite a bit of water on this with a lot of wet paint, we want our tree trunks, we don't want them going everywhere, right? And if you actually, like me, and we have some color that goes out, just broaden that tree trunk out a bit, make it a little bit wider. Moving them in to the ground, we're going to do nice piles of leaves all around them as well. And this can really be a really fun project to do on your own. You might want to do it with family. I'm kind of working towards my annual Thankful Home project, which will actually end up releasing over on my website. It's a longer class. It'll be a free one, but I'll end up putting those links. I'm still working on what I want to do with it this year. I love doing that every November, just looking at the past year and what we have to be thankful for, or what I have to be thankful for, and that recording that in a painting, which turns out to be, really personal, but a wonderful way to remember the gifts of the year. It is so easy, life is so busy, and it feels this year, after all that's happened the past few years, as things are up and moving and going again, it has been nonstop, and everyone, almost everyone I talk to is like, what happened to October? October vaporized, and now it's November, and so it's without really paying attention, I found that so easy to miss the gifts, the blessings, the good things God has done this year, and the gifts He's given. So I want to be cognizant of that. So every year I do a thankful home and that interactive painting. And I'm thinking too, as I'm talking about that now, because I'm looking at these trees, and I might incorporate some of these trees into the painting. I'm thinking of changing things up. There's still going to be a house, but I'm going to have some other things too. I think I'm going to have a bunch of trees, my thankful trees. Okay. All right, we are moving along here. You can see I'm not being super exact any of these, because we're going to come back and add some more color and whatnot, but I wanted to get that down. Now that we have that, I'm going to get a slightly bigger brush, but you can play with the same small brush if you'd like. I'm going to grab some gamboge, is the first color I'm going to use, and I'm going to come back over here, and I am just going to start laying down some color, and I'm going to go pretty light. I want to create a sense of lots of colors in these trees. So I am going to just move this around, but I'm not going to fill it up. I'm going to leave some white. I'm going to go over to this tree, and if it blends with the brown, that's okay. The brown goes really nicely with all of these colors. It'll probably just end up creating a sense of almost some shadowing. If you feel like the water is a bit dry, or your paint's a bit dry, just add some water to it. And I'm using gamboge. I'll probably pick up a little bit of cadmium orange, cadmium yellow. We'll add in some red. I've got some cadmium red, a light hue here, but you can do whatever fall colors. If you wanted to add more brown and just do all the trees the same color, you can certainly do that. But you can see too, I'm not trying to paint individual leaves. I'm going to pick up some yellow here. I've got cadmium yellow, a medium hue. I am just laying down, color. We are laying down color. I'm letting it merge a little bit as well. I'm going ahead and painting down below as if these trees are quite full. I'm going to go ahead and pick up some cadmium red now. Over on this tree down here, and you can see how bold that is, right? That's almost a Christmas red, but some of the trees, the maple trees, they are quite bold in all of their colors. Now we can lighten that up a bit too by adding some yellow. So it's fun though to put some of that color down. Again, I'm trying not to let it sink in or just settle down in big globs. I'm wanting it to move around. And if it feels messy to you, it is. We're making this nice and loose intentionally. We're going to be coming back. I'm going to add some of that red right into this one. I didn't even get any more paint, just a little left over. And we'll be putting in a little bit of paint, pen and ink after it dries, and then doing those splatters. And this is fun too, because this really, I think, shows off the fun and the magic of watercolors, of watching that merge together. I'm going to pick up some cadmium yellow. I'm going to keep it pretty loose, and I'll come back in here now on my red. And I'm just going to let that blend. I know some of the trees, as I was walking, they're just like a multicolored of leaves, right? Now some trees too are like brown and purple. You might have to do one of those, and like a dark red, just at different colors. We'll do some more detailed work with some leaves, just a little bit, when we come back with our pen. All right, I'm going to pick up some gamboge, and then again, I'm just moving this guy around, picking up a little bit more red, dropping some more red in this one. This is going to be my bold tree over here. I'm going to come back down here, and as if the leaves are just piling up around, we're going to just kind of make piles of leaves, making sure on these edges down here And I'll pull that in just a bit closer so you can see that. You can see where I'm using the top of my brush so we create an uneven edge. And that shows those piles of leaves. If you want to grab, for example, right here, some cadmium red, or if you have, yeah, that's what I'm cadmium, or if you maybe have alizarin crimson, I cannot ever say that one, the alizarin crimson, you can pick up that one and add that too. And this kind of gives the paint a little bit of a chance to dry. I'll add some up down here. Coming up against, close up against the base of the tree. And then adding in some more color. I'm going to pick up some cadmium orange. Cadmium orange is a bit more opaque. It doesn't play so nicely with the other colors, is that it tends to take over them. That's fine. But just realize that with your cadmium orange, that once you put cadmium down, the cadmium orange, it really does take over. And you can see in this tree right here, it is just taking over. And our sun is coming out. It's a rainy day today here in Northern California, which we desperately need. And so I wasn't sure how it was going to play with the lighting. In one way, I don't have a ton of sun where I'm having to hide from the really bright shadows. Actually, this is coming out really nicely though with the light, but I was hoping it was going to be light enough that you could see clearly. Okay, so let's go ahead. I'm going to pick up some more yellow. And I really do like those trees. I was on a hike last week with my sisters, and we're not painting birch trees today, but there was those birch trees, and my brown got in, but that's okay. That had just yellow, beautiful yellow leaves, and boy, were they stunning against the white trunks. Such an unusual looking tree. My grandfather used to paint tons of birch trees. I think it was in the 80s that he painted so many birch trees. He'd go up to Lake Tahoe and take pictures and then come back and paint yellow and some orange. And I have to, he just painted them. His clients loved them. They bought and bought and bought from him. Okay, I'm just kind of moving. I'm trying to get a shape for these trees too, because we don't want them to be blobs. So you can see too where I'm not trying to make them big circles. And I'm gonna do a nice colors there. And I'm looking around too and thinking, okay, I do maybe want a little bit more color here in my orange. And even over here in this guy, I want them to be a little bit bolder. But I will say too, this first round, it does tend to look a little bit more just messy, because we need to give that initial base some time to dry. And then when we come back and do the layering, we're gonna be able to make everything be a little bit more distinct. What I do think is fun is down below our trees where it kind of will merge, but we can put the color of the leaves that are falling below. And that's a really fun way to create some distinction as well. It won't work perfectly because the colors will blend together, but that's okay. That's part of what happens too, is all the wind is blowing the trees around. And I certainly don't want it to be like a mirror image, so I'll add in some other color like I am doing right now. Pick up some more of that cadmium orange, and I'll put the cadmium orange down here. Again, make sure you're using the tip of your brush to kind of almost create the look of leaves piling up, so it doesn't look like a flat backdrop. Okay, that's looking really, really pretty. Now, I really am tempted to, about right now is about the time where I know I should probably stop. I'm gonna take a little bit of brown. I'm gonna go just up here, just a little bit to come in and grab and create some definition where I know I lost it. But then I'm actually gonna let this sit and dry. And the reason is I wanna come in and add that next layer and create that depth. But it's getting so wet right now that it's just going to be kind of blobby if I try to keep painting it. These are the technical words that I know you watch for, blobby. We don't want blobby blotches of paint. We'll make it at least some alliteration, right? So I'm going to let that dry in there. Again, just a little bit more of depth. If you wanted to clean anything up, maybe you wanted to add another branch. I'll add a branch here. Maybe you wanted a couple of twiggies sticking off. We'll do that. Get a little bit more water. Come back over here, just to where you maybe think you have some shadowing going on. And we'll come right down here. Okay. Okay, so let this dry. Let this dry for a little bit, and then we're gonna come back. We will grab a micron pen when we come back, and we'll have a piece of paper to cover while it's splattered, but I'll see you back here in just a couple of minutes. Okay, everyone, we're back. Part 2, so it's nice and dry, mostly dry enough. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a micron pen, and if you see in this first one here where I had done little leaves but just kind of outlined, made some definition in the original painting. So I'm going to just do that here, and you can go through this as quick and as detailed as you want, but you're going to notice too, I don't do like full-on sketching. I'm just going very, very light. And we did have a bit of buckling because of just all the water that we put down on the paper. I am not bothered by that at all. That's just part of the process. And I actually just got some new watercolor paper, a different brand. And so we're going to be playing with that, and I'll talk about that next week. Sometimes really improving, just getting a more advanced, more expensive paper. It really can make a difference in watercolor. I'm using 140 pound in this one, and it's a nice brand. It's Canson. So a good brand of watercolor paper, not too expensive, right? Art supplies tend to be a bit pricey, so I'm always looking for that coupon or the deal or the sale to stock up. But paper really does make a difference. I always say if you're going to spend a little bit more on art supplies, you know, and especially with watercolor, spend a little bit more on your paper. Okay, and you can see too, I'm just going to make almost like little leaves. Nothing too big too. By the way, you can too, we're going to just add in more paint colors really, and some splatters. And even down here, just spending maybe a little bit of time adding in just some of the detail on the trees. Not too much though in the leaves. Again, almost like little V's. Maybe to where you're thinking I'm going to add in some darker shadowing, and just moving right along here. And I love this too because this is one of those art projects that you can do in a couple sessions. You know, you do that original lay down of the colors, and then you come back and you can create this some of the leaves and then the splattering, and it just really suits itself nicely to a multi-layered approach, but then just, you know, in segments of 15, 20 minutes. And if you were making these for gifts, for example, holidays are approaching, if you want to create nice art for people, you can just do this over a couple of, you know, weeks really, and get several done of these really gorgeous trees. There's just something beautiful about having paintings of trees around the home, right, or the office. Okay, so again, I haven't done tons of detailing. Just little bits here. And so let's go ahead now and add in some splatters. I'm actually going to take a smaller, I'm going to get my yellow all nice and wet. We're going to get gamboge wet. I'm even going to get some of that red wet. Maybe mix a little gamboge in with the red. Play with your palette. Get some of that orange nice and wet. And then go ahead, grab your, I'm going to get a smaller brush. I'll do some initial splatters so you can see with the bigger brush, bigger splatters, right? So I'm going to grab my smaller brush, and you do have to take your time a little bit more, but that's not a bad thing. And I'm just going to start doing some splattering. And with the sense too that it's kind of a sense of the leaves are falling. And so I just go ahead and let it splatter where it will. I'm not even, I think I mentioned we could take some paper to cover up, but different trees, so you only get certain colors on certain trees, but I'm not even going to worry about that this morning. I'm going to go ahead and just move around, and I'll show you in a second, we'll organize. That sounds kind of funny, organizing the splatters, but we will. Making sure if your splatters feel like they're not coming off, give that brush really a good tap, but make sure there's quite a bit of water on the brush. If it's saturated with too much paint, those splatters are not going to flow. I'm going to splatter the bottom too. I'm going to go ahead and come back. We're going to get some more of that cadmium red over here, that light hue. I really want to go deeper over here. Again, I don't want to use too big of a brush, although it's so tempting, but the splatters are just a bit too big for this size of painting. and they end up looking like raindrops on your painting, which we really don't want, right? We don't want raindrops. We really were going for splatters. So I'm using a size 2 brush right now. And the thing with the colors that we're using, the really nice thing is that they all blend beautifully. They're not gonna create like a really ugly brown, like if we were mixing red and green, for example, or pink and green. Okay, now I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna start taking some of this paint and then taking some of these splatters and organizing them. Just creating the sense of trees like right over here. Isn't that fun? I think that is just really, it adds a lot. It adds a whole layer of depth that we did not have. I'm gonna come over here. I'm gonna do the same thing. Now, if you wanted to get some more depth too, you might wanna incorporate a little bit of brown. You can mix some brown with some of the colors that you already have on here, or you can just do a little bit of brown. So for example, if I wanna take a little bit of brown here, on this one, let's say right here, and just splatter some brown of that burnt sienna is the brown that I'm using, and then come up here and you'll get kind of that golden brown, which is actually really nice. A lot of the trees have the golden brown. And you'll notice I'm not touching any of the splatters here. Those are just gonna look, my goal is that they just kind of look like leaves falling. I was running this morning and there was a little bit of a breeze, not too much, but like it was blowing up some of the leaves where a leaf would just kind of blow past me. It was fun. I was going out early. We have the time change tomorrow, so I'm recording this a couple of days ahead before it releases. And so it was pretty dark out this morning. Even I was going around 7 o'clock, but between just the overcast morning and then the late sunrise, it was a bit dark. So some of the leaves kind of gave a little bit of it was just quite the fallish ambiance. And I'm just gonna go ahead and splatter some more. And you're gonna see too, I want some of the splatters to just remain splatters. I don't want them all to be mixed in. I do wanna do some work over here though with the cadmium red. I'm actually gonna take some orange over here and blend it in. Take a little bit of the cadmium, put some more splatters here. If some gets over in that one, that's fine. And just moving that around, seeing too where I had these deeper areas. This might be, with the cadmium red is so bright. If you love it, go for it. But if it's even a bit too bright for you as you've laid it down, pick up some brown and pick up that brown and splatter some brown in and then blend that in. And that'll give you a nice, just a muted red. That muted color, which I'm seeing a lot of the trees, especially those trees that have the multicolored leaves. Okay, we are just moving, which is good. I actually have to run. I've got some appointments this morning, but you know, I wanted just to sneak in here. I had just been savoring this time this morning in the studio for some painting and some recording, and I'm so glad I did. It's just such a wonderful way to, so it's Saturday as I'm recording this. So just doing some painting, starting the weekend, thinking about the week. We're gonna do some splattering down there. Now remember down here where your paints are, don't forget about to create some layers up here, right? You might even do another layer a little bit higher of those beautiful leaves. I'm gonna come back. You might even take your larger brush now if you're using one. I'm gonna go back and I had some of this gamboge and brown mixed together, and we're just gonna kind of move over just like this. And I'm gonna move it a little bit in that red too, and then move it back over here. Really be cognizant around the tree trunks. It's gonna be deeper there, more shadow, so maybe even grab a bit of brown and just let that brown blend in with the other color that's going on. Lovely, really, really nice, you guys. I am loving this. I've got some cadmium orange. I'm just gonna do, again, see, watch too. So this, I don't have too much paint, so this is not too many sprinkles. Okay, I love this. I think I'm about ready to stop because we don't want to get it to so wet where it can start turning into water stains, which can happen. I'm gonna do just a little bit more sprinkles, splatters. I'm gonna get some more of the brown red right over here. If you notice anywhere you're like, okay, I just want to get a little bit more, do like one more row of sprinkles, splatters, and then let's go ahead and call it a day. We're gonna let it completely dry, It's absolutely beautiful. I hope you love this. I will come in closer on mine. But isn't that fun? Just a beautiful, beautiful fall foliage. You've created a gorgeous painting, and you could either cut this up, make it into bookmarks, or you can just leave it as is, frame it. It's a beautiful, beautiful piece of art. All right, you guys, I will see you soon.